All right, everybody. You can feel free to start sharing your screen. We are now going to get started here with our reproducible research competition. Okay, so we're kicking things off with our student track. So this reproducible research competition was a result of conversations with Sam Ventura and myself of thinking about how could we do a competition unlike the other ones at the time that, you got it? Yeah, I don't want to hear myself talk. You're good. Okay. At the time when things were very much closed in terms of who was winning some types of sports analytics conferences at other types of cities northeast of here. And so our inspiration was, let's have a competition where people are using publicly available data. They're making resources to access publicly available data from a variety of different sports for people to work with. And a couple years ago, we did this competition with a new track, a data software track. And so what we're going to start with here is the student track. We're good. The student track data software winner. So this is Bhaskar Lalwani, Aniruddha Mukherjee, and they are from the Kalinga Institute of Industrial Technology in India. We are a worldwide competition, folks. So well, we're excited. They're actually roommates in college. Both of them are juniors in computer science, very much interested in pursuing grad school, working on interesting research projects. You can check out their bios more thoroughly in the program. But what they're going to be talking about today in their presentation, what their submission was deemed the winner in the student data software track, is their Python package, KabaddiPy. Am I saying that right? Kabaddi. Yeah. Package to enable access to professional Kabaddi data. I did not know Kabaddi existed until the results came in and this was the winner. So I hope you're excited to meet it, to learn about what is Kabaddi. So I'll have these two take away. Let's give another round of applause for these winners. And they are each, their team does get $1,000 as a prize too. So thank you for the sponsors for that. All right. Take it away.
So hello. Is this working? Yeah. Okay.
Yeah,
so
hold it so close.
right. So I'm Aniruddha.
And I'm Bhaskar.
And we're here to present KabaddiPy. The introduction is already done by Dr. Yurko, so let's move on. So we'd like to start with the question. So what does wrestling, chess, and rugby have in common?
Yeah, open question. Anyone?
I mean, the answer is already known, but we're looking for other answers. So Kabaddi, obviously, but why? Well, it has the strength of wrestling, the strategy of chess, and the teamwork of rugby. And
by the way, 400 million people watch this sport, with the teams being valued at $11 million each.
So it's growing. So here's a preview of what Kabaddi is to get the blood pumping. I mean, we just came back from a break, right? And we have a lot of videos here, so stay tuned.
Okay, here's the fact that
That is take them to 13. Oh my word!
Yeah, okay, so that was it. We have more videos. We need to fit in 10 minutes. All right, so first, what is Kabaddi? So spoiler alert, if any of you played tag, which I guess you all have, you've already played a version of Kabaddi.
Or a simplified version, yeah.
So 2 teams, 7 aside, 40-minute game, 20-minute halves, right? There's a mid line, which is the main line in the court, where the 2 teams stand. And there are 2 other important lines, which is the balk line, the white one, and the bonus line, which is the green one. It requires no gear, so there's no gear, it's just you. So now we're getting into the weeds. So I'll just play a video. So the team A, which is the red team, sends a raider to the opposite half, right? The opposite half, which is the blue team. So am I speaking too fast? Okay. So yeah, the blue team tries to tackle or prevent the raider from getting back. So that's the midline. And in this replay, you can see the raider is trying to get back, but the blue team prevented him. The raider's job in life is to touch as many people in the blue team and get back to his own half. Each person you touch is out, and you get a point for that. Does that make sense? all right? And this raid happens 30 seconds, and you need to hold your breath while you're doing the raid. So that's where we're at. And so, all right. And yeah, okay. So, all right. So a raid can either be successful or it can fail. So here's a failed raid where the tackling team successfully tackled a raider. Oh no, is there no one?
He's killing the seconds and he's killing his team's chances. They've dealt with it. Poor approach.
Yeah, he's unfortunately just not quick enough.
So he wasn't quick enough, all right? He didn't get back. All right, so to really drive the point home, here's a raid slowed down.
A lot happens in 30 seconds.
Another
Just
raider,
have a
and
look.
his hand was let out. It wouldn't have reached the midline. He's got this ability.
So he does it. Oh my, I can't speak while. So he does it, touches with his toe. So that player's tagged. Now he's trying to get back to his half. All the other players pile on top of him to prevent him from getting back, obviously. And he still manages to get back with his hand, just crossing the midline here.
So any part of the body that gets back counts as a successful raid. So here two things happen. It was a super raid since he scored more than 3 points. And it was also an all-out because no defenders were remaining.
Makes sense because everyone was touched, everyone was tagged. So with KabaddiPy, you can do some fancy data visualization we'll come to later. But here are some raiding skills, pretty fairly obvious. Toe touches, kicks, escape tackles,
yeah.
just running away basically. Defense tackles, ankle hold, trip the raider, or back hold, front tackles.
Or pushing the raider out of the lobby.
Exactly, just get out. And lastly, not to beat a dead horse, here's a complete raid defense cycle. It's going to make the talk a little bit longer, but please bear with us. Oh no, there's no volume.
High-spirited. One mission. Point. He gets 2 on the...
So this is the replay.
Standing raid from Kumar under pressure. Yeah, story's been excellent. I mean, they made a change. He got a chance. Now he's become their choice. 3-point lead at the moment. Naveen Express, yes, he's given them 8 points, but last 3 raids he's picked up absolutely nothing. Time for him to just pick that big one now! Shamble goes for the man!
So this is the level we're at. All right. So any questions? I mean, it's been fairly funny, but any questions?
What about a raid? What is a tackle? How a point scored? Any questions?
So 40 minutes at the end. Oh, when is it considered over? Because, I mean, you know the guy's never going to get back to his half. Or he stops chanting kabaddi.
Or the time runs out, which is 30 seconds.
Yeah. So that's when the raid gets over.
So they're chanting kabaddi while they're holding their breath?
When you're chanting, you're definitely not taking another breath in, right? Yeah. So that's the...
Yeah.
So, okay, any other questions? All right, sorry.
So now, pretty exciting sport, huh? But why should you care about it? Let's see. Kabaddi has grown from a rural sport into this huge sport with many professional leagues. It was featured in the Asian Games, which is a regional games in Asia, much like the Olympics, with 16 teams. Even the US has a Kabaddi team. So, which has led to the formation of multiple international leagues, such as Pro Kabaddi League in India, the British Kabaddi League in the UK, and the US has a Kabaddi League coming up this year. So, pretty fun. Now, the PKL had 351 million viewers, with it projected to reach 400 million this year. Additionally, Disney bought the media rights for $22 million a year. With the demographic is pretty young, 70% of viewers are below 40 years old. And the Kabaddi World Cup I just talked about spanned 16 days and had 114 million viewers. So there is definitely audience.
So lots of people watching this.
Now, let's look at inflation-adjusted historical value comparisons. So MLB's currently top valued team, the Yankees, were valued at around $7 million 12 years after its founding, while the NFL's Green Bay Packers were valued at around $2 million after 30 years since its founding. But the top-ranked team in PKL, the Puneri Pultons, are valued at an $11 million currently, only 10 years after its founding, according to the Economic Times. So clearly, there is unprecedented value at such an early stage. We are at an inflection point.
Okay, so the question is obviously, what's next? So the way I like to think about Kabaddi is it's like baseball before Moneyball, and we're here for the Moneyball part, and next year we're going to come back and with a whole dashboard. So what we essentially did was we scraped data from 4 websites, one being ProKabaddi.com, which is the official site for the clips we just watched, KabaddiAdda.com, which had a lot of auction data for the players. There's a huge auction market. There was a Tableau dashboard we too found online in some corner of the internet, which had a lot of team information, and Global Sports Archive, which is fairly small in its sample size of data, but that's there as well. Then we just scraped it using standard beautiful soup, Selenium, web scraping technologies, which earlier researchers had to do themselves when they were writing papers. Not a few, like 3 papers on this from what a literature review. And then we just returned pandas data frames or tables for people to use. So here's a tutorial of how to use KabaddiPy.
So let's talk about Pulton, the last championship winners, and let's focus on their semi-final match. So filtering all the season matches, we get the match we really care about, and we get the match's team ID and the match ID as well. So moving ahead, let's use the match ID to plot out the point progression to see how visually the points evolved over time. Now, do you see the stagnation here? Why did this happen? Was it a yellow card? Was a crucial player injured? Let's not speculate, and let's use data instead. So we call the play-by-play function of KabaddiPy to get a subset of the events and the events that we really care about. Here, as identified by the raiding team ID, the Patna Pirates had many unsuccessful raids as well as many empty raids, which led to them rapidly losing points. At the same time, as can be seen by the score column, the winners were rapidly gaining points and sending the opposing players out. Now, for newcomers, which I think are most of us here, but the standings function is a great point to get a sense of data through, or get a sense of sport through the data. Let's focus on Bengal Warriors, the top-ranked team here. Now, we can get a whole tables of team aggregated stats using the match ID and the team ID for the Bengal Warriors. So here, for example, we have this number of super raids, the number of raids, and the % successful raids. You also have the per metric rank, where you can see that they had the highest team successful raids rank, which definitely contributed to their championship win. But how were these points scored? So we have the offense and defense skills also returned using the same function to see how the Bengal Warriors Raiders scored these points. For example, the Raiders used hand touches to score 49 points, which is a really popular skill. But now it's all very vague. Where are these numbers? Where on the court? Now we can also see that using the team zones function. So we plot the strong and the weak zones. The green circles here represent raids which have been successful and where opposing raiders have been tackled successfully. So it's really useful for positional analysis.
So places where they raided successfully and where they tackled successfully, and vice versa, right?
Naturally, this leads us to ask who scored these points, who were the top scorers. So we get the roster, we get the IDs of the top players, and let's use that for player level analysis. Now we plot a grid of the strong zones of the players. So for example, the top left player is really strong at the center midline, while the bottom left player is really strong at the bonus right.
Okay, so that's a very quick intro of how to use KabaddiPy. But now we'd like to switch gears a bit. There's a function that we did do a bit of analysis on, and that is the raiders versus the number of defenders. So a key thing in Kabaddi is if you're a raider, it's how many defenders you're trying to tag. If there's 7 defenders, it's going to be difficult, right? Because there are lots of people to jump on you. And if there are 3, it's a bit easier. So what we did is we got this data where you see the number of defenders here, 754, and you see the number of raids. So it's not like you're going to have 100 raids for each type of defender. And we got the success percentage of those raids. So this is plotted in this graph. The y-axis represents the success of the raid, And the labels on top of the bars represent how much of that raid happened. So the frequency of that particular type of raid. So this raider is really popular in India. But why? Because the pink bar is his success rate against 7 defenders. So which is the hardest, right? And he's always had consistently above like 40% in this scenario. So that makes him a really great starter, and he's really consistent over 5 seasons, going all the way back to season 5. So this is our function map. The main takeaway from this slide was that we have primary keys for each of the data, and that's it.
So if you want to check out the repo, that's there as well.
Yeah. So now we're almost done. Thanks for bearing with us. But here's the future work.
So obviously, there are so many leaks. So the first step is to diversify our data sources to get a real sense of where the raiders are actually good. Now, secondly, we can use human pose detection to analyze these matches and the players to improve their technique.
So a bit of computer vision.
And also important is video analysis to map out the raiders' movement patterns, which can be really crucial to plot against really strong raiders like the one we just saw.
Yeah, so thank you so much. That was our talk. We'd like to thank Dr. Jon Jurko for constantly being in contact with us via email and helping us so much.
Yeah, and we'd like to thank CMSAC for this great opportunity.
For the platform.
Yeah.
And KIIT for sponsoring us to come here. The flight was quite long. And so yeah, here's a summary and a few open questions. If anyone had questions, or is that deferred to the break?
I think we'll defer to the break.
All right.
Scan the QR code to check out our paper.
If you'd like, you can take a picture of this and scan the QR code to get our paper.
That leads to a paper, and the repo is linked there as well.
Yeah, we have an example notebook also. So the thing we just rushed through in like 5 minutes, it's clearly explained in the Jupyter notebook for people familiar with Python.
Yeah,
so, yeah.
And
thank you so much.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. Great job. Great job.
Exit.
You're good. Don't hit anything else. Just, yeah, you're good.